We're live. What is going on, Mountaineer Nation? Couz and Paul here at 12:10 a.m. on a freaking Tuesday after watching the Mountaineers pull out one of the grittiest, toughest, hard-nosed victories I've seen in quite some time in Mountaineer basketball. I was pissed off with this team about, just a few minutes into the second half. I was saying negative things on Twitter. I said we were cursed. We ain't going to win this game. And lo and behold, they do it, man. I'm glad to eat my words, glad to eat crow, glad to say that those tweets didn't age well because the Mountaineers pulled it off. Paul, what do you think, my brother?
Well, you and I, since we're doing this venture together, we text a lot during the games, and I'm superstitious. Sometimes I turn the game off. Sometimes I ask you to update me. Sometimes I watch just the score on ESPN. It was stressful. It was definitely a stressed Virginia type of night. But I got to catch some of what Bob Huggins said after the game, post game, and everything he had to say about Joe was very well warranted. And without Joe, we don't win this game. We may not even come within 10. He was that instrumental on both sides of the ball, locking down that, he had some really good possessions against their best player in the second half, even though he still got his.
Yep.
I think he had some really important possessions where he was able to get some stops. So that was important. But obviously his floor management was top level. And it's why I've said since the beginning of the year, I feel like, even though his role, he comes off the bench and is great in it, I still feel like he has the flavor of a starting point guard.
Yeah.
And he's got that New York City toughness about him that I can't explain. And while I love Keddy, I feel like their roles should be reversed, but that's a whole other story. Great game. Really happy. Tickets probably punched. If you haven't seen Keddy Johnson's tweet, go check it out. He had some choice words to celebrate the moment as well.
Yeah, and I tell you what, man, there are so many guys that I want to give shout-outs to in this show. But first, before I do that, I can't share the stats on the screen with you guys tonight like I usually do because I'm in my car on my phone. I can't, and when you're on your phone, I obviously can't switch over to another screen or I'll lose my feed. But I will read them to you guys. West Virginia shot 44% from the floor. Iowa State shot 46.2%. 3 points, West Virginia was 9 of 27. Iowa State was 8 of 21. West Virginia 33%, Iowa State 38%. Free throws 19 of 23 for West Virginia, 13 of 18 for Iowa State. That was ended up being critical in the game. Rebounds 29 for West Virginia, 26 for Iowa State, and we needed every one of them. Assists 11 to 13 edged Iowa State. Steals 5 to 6 Iowa State. Blocks 3 to 1 West Virginia. Total turnovers West Virginia had 12, Iowa State 10. Fouls 20 to 25. West Virginia 20, Iowa State 25. And obviously we had the technical foul on there was a technical foul and a flagrant foul on Tre Mitchell. It's shown as a technical, but I think it was actually a flagrant. But anyway, nonetheless, there was a flagrant foul on Tre Mitchell, and then the guy from Iowa State had a technical. So anyway, 72-69 was the final score. So, look, when you look at the stats, nothing really stands out other than we edged them in foul shooting, and I think that was the difference in the game, man. 82.6% and made big ones down the stretch. But the guys that I want to give a shout-out to, Paul, and then I'll get your thoughts, or the first one I want to give a shout-out to, and we'll talk about each one here periodically, but you mentioned him earlier, Joe Toussaint. The guy just absolutely balled out. He was much maligned by some people after that game on Saturday night when he had that walk to end the game. A lot of fans were giving him a hard time on social media and things like that, and I'm sure he was probably hard on himself. He comes out tonight, 19 points, 7 rebounds, guys. A point guard, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, only 1 turnover. And was 4 of 6 from the floor, 3 of 5 from 3, 8 for 8 from the foul line. I don't know what else to say about the guy. Me and Paul were joking earlier, they say you got to have the Jimmies and the Joes. Well, West Virginia had the Joe tonight, baby, because he tore it up. So I just don't know what else to say about the guy. I mean, you spoke on him earlier. You said you think he needs to start. I'm perfectly fine with him coming off the bench, but the guy he's a flat-out baller, man.
Yeah, he is. Actually, the two-guard lineup, you think about Joe Toussaint and Keddy Johnson, tell me a better backcourt. I mean, there are a few out there that can compete with that, but I'll take Joe and Keddy any day, man. I'll ride with my guys. I love them too. They're both defensive-minded players. And both have really worked on their game. It seems like they both traveled a similar path as far as offensively throughout their careers. They're both seniors. Both had been offensively challenged earlier in their careers and have come on to be able to score it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably one of the craziest things about what Joe did tonight was he did it in 24 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a half, basically. And it makes you wonder what he could do with 35 minutes or 30. But then again, maybe that's why Huggins is a Hall of Fame coach. He knows. I don't want to criticize that too much. But if you look up and down this stat line, just from the players, Emmitt Matthews had 13. Tre Mitchell, 0 points. Jimmy Bell, 0 points, 0 assists, 5 boards. Keddy Johnson, 8 points. Eric had 23, which he deserves a lot of love. He played a tough game tonight too. Joe had 19. Then after that, you've got 3, 3, 3, 0, and 0. Literally 3 players in double digits. Not a pretty stat sheet to look at, even though 72 points were scored.
Mm-hmm.
If you show me this stat sheet before the game, I'm going to be really hesitant to say that we won that thing. And then if you look over at Iowa State and see that, how do you say that kid's last name? Couz? Kalsher,
I think.
Yeah, and you look over there, so he goes for 26. They got another guy that went for 16. Theirs isn't much better. But overall, like you said, it was so close. And really, we were able to really hold O'Sunny in check. I thought that was a big deal. He can really score the ball. I think he averaged double figures on the year for them. A lot of things went our way, and the referees really called a tight game, but I felt like it was overall pretty fair game. I didn't feel like we got screwed too bad. Actually, I felt like we got some calls. So, overall, I think we won a game that was pretty fairly called, and we were just a little bit tougher than them. And when you think about the guys we had go out, especially down low with James Okonkwo and Mo Wiggy, those are two, from night to night, especially Mo. Mo's won us a couple games this year. Certainly he hadn't been that in the second half of the season, but he's got the potential to be a dominant force around the rim and scoring or blocking it. So it was, a big deal that Pat came in and gave us a couple good minutes. Jimmy had to play basically the whole game. Probably lost another 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Heck of a good game.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I get too far, though, I want to give a shout-out to Kalsher from Iowa State. It wouldn't be fair to not give that kid his love because he absolutely balled, was making shots. Pat 08 Mullins in the chats made it perfectly clear. He said Iowa State made tough shots. That one guy had a hand in his face always and was switching it. Talking about Kalsher. And I want to give him his props. Yeah, 26 points tonight, flat-out balled. And he did most of that with 3 or maybe even 4 fouls late in the game. I don't know if he ever got his 4th foul or not. I don't remember, but he balled out, and you got to give the kid props for that. But I also want to give a shout out to Emmitt Matthews, man. They were having to help him off the court during timeouts. He was so tired.
Yeah,
he was absolutely just. I mean, it was the announcer, which I don't know that I would. I don't know that it's a fair comparison, but the announcer compared it to Michael Jordan's flu game in the playoffs.
Right.
Probably not.
Visually.
I'm not going to say it. Visually, yes, it was that. 2 different times he had to be helped off the court by his teammates. He was so exhausted. But he gutted it out. Never went out of the game during that stretch. and just absolutely made some big shots for us at the end, especially from the free throw line. I mean, you mentioned his 13 points. He also had 4 rebounds, was 2 of 2 from the line, 5 of 12 from the floor. You know, not a great shooting percentage, but he made shots when we needed him to make shots at the end. And he had to play he was playing the 5 at the end of the game too, and had a couple blocks. So on the game as well.
Yeah, actually, you're right. That last block, especially towards the end, there was huge.
It was huge. I thought they had 2 points, and here come Emmitt and stopped it. And it wasn't, it didn't awe anybody because he didn't knock it into the bleachers. But it was, he did what he had to do.
It was a stop.
Absolutely.
And it got him deep into the shot clock as well.
Yes. And then got to give Keddy credit, man. The guy had a hit pointer, was limping most of the game, and toughed it out, dude. I mean, he had 8 points, 5 assists, 2 steals, only 1 turnover, just 2 for 4 from the floor. Just an absolute. I mean, this team just absolutely toughed out a win, man. They didn't do it pretty, but Iowa State's the best defensive team in the league, or one of them anyway. And they had to tough it out, and they gritted it out. And this is a game that earlier in the year, I don't think they win. I'll just be straight up with you. This team has come so far, and I am so proud of this. This is one team. I am 1 minute I'm so mad at them I could yell and scream, and the next minute I want to give them all a big hug. I mean, I'm so proud of this team. They're fun to watch, and I don't know. It's hard to believe these guys most of them have only been on the team a year. And they're turning
really come together.
Yeah, they've come together, and they have embraced Mountaineer basketball.
I agree.
And
it's a great
they're going to go down as some very memorable players for this program, man. So, Eric Stevenson, for an example.
Yeah, he could go down. Before it's said and done, depending on what happens in the tournament, let's say they make a deep run, he could get up in the top 7 or 8. Just with how memorable of a player he could end up being, even in 1 year. Just his emotions. And look, he's got, this team has the potential to make a run. I think everybody recognizes that. Every team in the Big 12 does. Even Oklahoma could make a run. I don't think there's anybody that doubts it. So before we get any further, guys, if you like this, like what we're doing here, give us a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, guys. And also leave a comment if you're watching this after the live show. Leave a comment and let us know how you feel about how the team performed today. Keddy gutted that performance out. Emmitt gutted a performance out. They took on the caricature of their head coach, Bob Huggins. Really proud of them for that. I heard somebody ask what happened to James. Early in the game, he sprained his ankle. It was a quiet injury. I was telling Couz about it. Actually, he wasn't even sure what happened earlier. I just happened to catch it. But he sprained his ankle early in the game, probably between the 6 and 10-minute mark of the first half. And he just quietly limped off. Nothing, major. With being this close to the end of the year, not sure if this is one of those things where, hey, we just need to sit him. We've got other bigs we can play today. Or if it was a more serious injury. Didn't get to see the press conference. I'm sure Bob doesn't know a whole lot about it yet. But we'll hear more about that and update you guys here in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even know. But I don't know how I missed it. I was watching. Of course, I'm on my phone some, too, during the game, between messaging you. And, of course, I'm on Twitter some. I got to get on Twitter, see what everybody's saying, and give my 2 cents. And it may have happened when I was looking away or something. But yeah, I was asking you, too, earlier before while the game was still going on, what happened to James. But anyway, I appreciate you updating everybody on that.
It's a great point by Pat Mullins right there.
Which one?
The one I have on the screen. When you have Wilson Johnson.
That lineup worked, man. And somebody on Twitter I saw right before we hopped on, and much deservedly so, gave a shout out to Keddy Johnson for his. I mean, he had 3 points, 3 rebounds, dude, but he played really good defense down the stretch and was able to fill in for Tre Mitchell. And, I mean, heck, we played better down the stretch. I'm not saying we wouldn't have played that good with Tre on the court, but he filled his role, man. He did what he had to do. He played good defense. He's made a couple buckets when we needed him to. And then Seth Wilson only made 1 basket, but it was a huge basket. Iowa State had all the momentum. going in their direction. The crowd was going crazy. He steps up, makes that big three, and it went quiet, and then West Virginia got the momentum back. I don't know how many people – I mean, I didn't really think about it at the time, but looking back on it now, that three-pointer was huge in this game that he made because it got things swinging back in West Virginia's direction from a momentum standpoint.
The Big Mo. Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I hope I didn't do it prematurely, but I was arguing with some Pitt fans last week, 2 separate ones, and they were talking a bunch of crap because they said we weren't going to make the tournament. Yeah, you can have that win over us, but you're not going to make the tournament. Man, I had to go see them comments right after the game when we jumped on here. It felt so good. They'll probably block me or something, but I can't hide. I hope wouldn't it be great to meet Pitt in the tournament? I'd pay to see it.
As long as we win.
Oh, well, I mean, I feel like that's a mismatch. Honestly, I feel like they don't match up well with us, especially since the one big they've had for 3 or 4 years ended up going to the portal. They don't match up well with us, in my opinion. But anyway, It's a completely off topic.
Yeah. Mickey, I guess Mickey disagreed with your comment about the refs. Mickey, I appreciate you being on here and supporting the show, man. But I'll be honest, I disagree with you. We shot more free throws than they did. We got more foul calls than they did, and I'll be honest with you. That flagrant call was a good call, in my opinion. There was no reason for him to hit him with his elbow right there. All he was doing was getting position. The guy might have flopped. I'm not saying he didn't flop, but I think Tre could have avoided that very easily. Just my opinion. I wasn't on the court, but I felt like it was a cheap shot. I think Tre was frustrated because he wasn't playing well. The game was starting to turn. The momentum was going in their direction, and he was frustrated and made a dumb decision. Doesn't mean Tre's a bad guy. Doesn't mean he's a bad player. I just feel like in that moment he made a bad decision. But obviously I respect your opinion. But Paul, what did you think about that flagrant call? Did you think it was the right call or not?
Well, it was probably closer to 50-50 than anything, as far as whether it should have been a flagrant one or not. But I don't know about the ejection. But I mean, these days if you make contact above the neck, it's just almost automatic. But I mean, if in my opinion, you can't take one call and say that makes the entire game an unfairly ref match or game.
Yeah.
Looking at the totality of it, it's, if you got 10 math problems on the board, 9 are right and 1 is wrong, which one do you focus on? The 1 that are wrong or the 9 that are right? And I feel like this game was, for the most part, about a 9 that are right type of game.
Mm-hmm.
There were some bad calls. There's bad calls in every game. But I think, West Virginia, like you said, we shot more free throws. We had, several. How many charges did we get in the first half? 4 or 5?
Something like that.
And they only called one flopping call on us, which was close. But, it wasn't like the Kansas game. I feel like I had a lot more to gripe about that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was okay with the officiating. There were some calls I didn't agree with, but there was some on both sides. I felt like we got a few breaks on some calls, and I felt like so did they. That's just the nature of the game. And like I said there again, I had no issue with that flagrant call. I felt like it was the right call in that situation. And, they went to the monitor and looked at it really closely. So, I mean, I trust their judgment. I mean, they sat there and looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. I have no reason to think they would have messed it up after looking at it for that period of time.
Agreed.
Brady says, have you ever seen a team walk away +5 from a flagrant 2? That made up for all of JT Daniels' shortcomings. That's funny.
Oh, my God.
That was crazy because their guy missed both free throws, and then we hit our free throws, then got the ball back, and that's when Seth hit his three-pointer.
Seth hit the 3. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah. That's got to be the turning point in the game, right?
It was a turning point. Yeah, that's when we got the momentum back because they were all excited. Can
you make an argument for Tre getting the flagrant?
You could, I guess.
If he doesn't get it, do we lose the game? I don't know. It's wild. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? it may have rallied
Yeah.
the guys, you know.
Well, I mean, yeah, because the one thing about this group is they're really close. I mean, you've heard them say it a bunch of times. And Tre getting kicked, I'd say it didn't sit well with them, because the starting five has been the same starting five all year. Those boys are really close, man. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate. And when you come into a situation like this where you guys all know it's only for 1 year, I would imagine that would bond you, faster because it has to be done faster.
Yeah. Yeah,
In
and
the
I
old
and
days, the
I
ejections would have been a hard charge.
I do think that they should have called a technical on the guy for kicking. They ended up calling technical on them, but it was on the other guy, I think, who ran in and shoved him, wasn't it? I don't remember. But anyway, there should have been two technicals on them. There should have been one for the guy kicking Tre, and then another for the guy who ran in and shoved him, in my opinion. Uh, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, it's all water under the bridge at this point. But
We got the W, man. I mean, yeah, we could
yeah,
focus on that, but now I'm not 100% sure on the rule, but I don't think he has to sit out for any of the next game, does he?
I don't know how that works.
I don't think it's like college football where you have to
Yeah,
sit through
I
the
don't
second
know.
half and
I
you
don't know
go.
the rule either. I don't think he does, but there again, that's something I'd have to research. And Kelsey,
Yeah,
he says he thought the ejection was soft. I understand, Kelsey, but that's the rule. A flagrant 2 is an automatic ejection, man. That's just the way the rule's written. It probably should have been a flagrant 1, maybe, instead of a 2. I could see that. I could go for that. Because it wasn't like he went. It wasn't like he took his elbow and hit him with the point of his elbow. But he did make contact to the face with his elbow. I don't know. You could say it either way, but it probably should have been a 1 instead of a 2, which means he wouldn't have gotten ejected. But at the end of the
yeah,
day, it kind of worked out in our favor, to be quite honest with you, because it rallied the guys. They missed their free throws. We made ours, and Kobe came in and played some pretty good basketball. So,
yeah,
at the end of the day, or Joe, whichever one replaced, I think Joe's actually the one who replaced him. He came in and played awesome basketball. So,
right.
but yeah, but at the end of the day, man, it all worked out. We got the W. And do you think, Paul, that we're an automatic lock even if we lose at home to Kansas State on Saturday?
I think it's pretty close to. I mean, it obviously depends on how we lose. We get blown out, that might play a factor. But outside of that, I really can't see much. I mean, the only thing that could really hurt us, in my opinion, is if we lose Kansas State, and let's say, are we playing Oklahoma State or Texas Tech in the first round? Do we know yet?
Right now, they have us playing Texas Tech. I don't think it'll
I saw
change.
that.
I'd have to look
So,
at who's ahead of us and look at what their record is, but which I
so
haven't had a chance to
let's,
do yet.
hypothetically, we lose to Kansas State, we lose to Texas Tech in the first game of the tournament. That's something that could really hurt us. The last thing the committee remembers is that you have a 2-game losing streak. So I don't want to get 100% comfortable, but Joe Lenardi said we're in there. And with our strength of schedule being the best, with our NET being as high as it is, it's going to be hard to keep us out, even with just 17 wins. Even if we end up at 17-15 somehow, and only 6 conference wins, it would be one of the only times it's ever happened. I think they said during the game 7 conference wins is one of the worst. Besides somebody that ran the conference tournament and got in,
Right,
like
right.
Georgia a few years back, and then ran
Mm-hmm.
all the way to the Sweet 16. That was a crazy
Syracuse
one.
did it and ended up beating us in the
Yeah,
tournament.
they sure did. But yeah, so I think we still have work to do. We have to be competitive against Kansas State, hopefully win, and then I think we need to take care of Texas Tech to guarantee it. But I would still lean towards yes, even if we do lose.
Yeah, when this game ended, I was already starting to think about Saturday, and I'm thinking, I hope the guys don't have a letdown game Saturday. But then I realized, number one, it's at home, and 2, it's senior day.
Yeah.
It's Emmitt
Right.
Matthews and Keddy Johnson senior day, man. You don't think those guys are going to want to ball out Saturday and play with everything they've got? Plus they owe Kansas State a revenge game, right? Because they beat us in a game that we should have won, and I'm sure they've got that on their minds too. And I'm sure Hugs will use that as motivation. So yeah, I don't think there'll be a letdown at all, and they get a whole week to rest up for the game, or yeah, pretty much a whole week to rest up for the game. So, yeah, I'm excited, man. If we can, I think if we win Saturday, I think we're definitely a lock to get in.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if we lose Saturday and win the tournament,
Yeah, right.
18
And it
is
may not.
definitely the number.
I agree. And I mean, and Tre here earlier, I wanted to say, he said if West Virginia wins on Saturday and Oklahoma State loses, West Virginia would actually get the 7 seed in the tournament and would play Oklahoma in the first round.
Okay.
Which I think I like that. I don't know. I think I like that matchup better than Texas Tech.
I don't know. They both beaten us once.
I know.
So.
I'd have to really go back and watch more, replays of the games or something.
Well,
to give you an
actually,
answer,
think about this, Couz. Tanner Groves, obviously one of the best bigs in the conference, and we're really hurt at the big spot.
That's true. Good point.
So I don't know that
Texas
he
Tech's
could end up being a mismatch in that game.
But AMAC for Texas Tech's probably better.
As a big,
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It's all right. I mean, it's an argument.
They're both similar teams. I'll tell you what. I think Oklahoma has. It's hard to say, but I think probably Oklahoma has the better player overall. As far as dang, lost track of my thoughts there. What's the kid Oklahoma has? It's one of the best 3-point shooters in the conference.
I can't. Sherfield, I think's his name.
Yeah, Sherfield. Yeah, that's who it is.
I got to see him live, and he was.
He's a great one-on-one player. So he kind of scares me too a little bit.
Yeah. There's always one guy that scores a lot of points against West Virginia almost every game. You notice that?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with the way Hugs recruits is we never have one guy that's a really, really good scorer like a Sherfield. Very rarely do we have a guy like that.
Right.
We have had, but rarely do we have a Deshaun Butler come through or somebody that can really score like that. Usually it's by committee, and Eric, I guess you consider like that. Yeah.
By the way, guys, we got a 47 on here right now. That's for this channel here with only 400 subscribers. That's a good number. We appreciate you guys hopping on here. It's 12:30 at night. I didn't expect this many people. Appreciate everybody's support. Everybody hit that like button for us, man. Because not only does it help us now, it'll help us once the video goes up and becomes it's not live anymore and it's a replay. It still helps out that algorithm for us. So we appreciate you guys hopping on. Paul, is there anything else you want to touch on before we jump off of here, man?
If you're not subscribed to us, guys, please subscribe. We make a lot of content, just basketball only on this channel. We have our own football channels as well, separate. This is a joint venture between Couz and I. Couz has Couz's Corner, which is one of the more popular West Virginia channels out there. If you go check him out, he's got several thousand subscribers. And then if you check me out, I'm on the road to 1,000. I'm like an inch away from 1,000 subscribers on my football channel. The off season's kind of hurt me with that, but yeah, Couz's Corner and Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. If you're not subscribed to those and you like Mountaineer sports, check us both out. We both do a different kind of thing. We have our own things we do. Couz is really analytical and gets into some of the conference realignment stuff. He's really good at that. I do a lot of, I break down a lot of tape. I talk to a lot of players. I have a lot of players, whether that be players that I've spoken to on my own or sort of their coaches on the show. So it's a good time, man. Come over and see us.
Yeah, thanks, man. And Mountaineer Paul Talks Football, obviously his channel. I don't remember if you said the name of it or not, but thank you to everybody for your continued support. And we have merch now, by the way. If you guys want to decide you want to buy Hoops from the Hills t-shirt, we do have them over at my merch store. You can find it on my channel, my Couz's Corner channel. And if you buy one of those shirts, then obviously Paul would get a cut of the profits on that if you want to support us that way. Financially, you can always shoot us a PayPal or a Venmo if you want as well, if you decide you want to make a donation. But really, what we really appreciate is just you guys supporting our work. liking the videos, watching the videos, sharing them out with your friends and your family. But anyway, that's enough of that. We don't want to talk about ourselves. We were on here talking Mountaineer football or basketball, and that's what we did. Big win for the Mountaineers. One I didn't see coming early in the second half. They gutted it out. They gritted it out. I'm really proud of the guys. Proud of the way they fought. Proud of their toughness, their effort. And they just wanted it more than Iowa State did at the end of the day, and that's what got them the win. So it'll be fun to watch them play on. I'm looking forward to watching them on Saturday as Kansas State comes in to Morgantown. And good sleep music. We appreciate you. We really do. With that being said, guys, we're going to call it a night. We appreciate you guys, everybody hopping on, and we are out.